Chapter 17. Step 6 of her plan was exciting, terrifying, risky, and risque. While all the other steps involved emotional appeal of some sorts, his sense of home, what he thought of her, tricking him into wanting to please her, this step went after Naruto's physical desire with raw sex appeal. Or whatever sex appeal she could muster. She did have confidence in her body. But all that seemed to vanish as she stared at herself in the mirror clad in a pair of red and black panties, matching bra and of course her glasses. She wasn't sexy, at least not compared to someone like Ino, but she had enough there that maybe, just maybe she could tantalize Naruto with it. If anything, she looked like a tall little girl. This was a mistake. A huge, colossal, gargantuan mistake. What if Naruto looked at her and thought that she looked like a little girl? Or worse, a little sister? If only you two grew a bit more, then maybe. Now was not the time for doubts or wishes. It was do or die time. Naruto was out there, and if his chakra was anything to go by, he'd be waking up soon. She needed to put her game face on. Naruto POV. Red-headed ass. There was something magical about waking up to a beautiful ass directly in line of sight. Her legs went on for miles, tantalizing lines of sexuality that extended upwards to her two cheeks of ass, contained in a pair of red and black panties. Above that was an orange shirt that barely kissed the top of her hips. A curtain of red hair spread a warmth through his body like the first rays of sun. It was as long and as wild as an inferno in the wind, dancing even when standing still. He was completely and utterly enchanted by the red-haired beauty that was in his sights. She turned and the enchantment was broken. It was Karin, half asleep, brushing her teeth with a comb stuck in her hair. And a different spell began to weave over him. Karin was hot. Her bedhead was just begging to have his fingers tangled inside of it. Half-lidded eyes, half obscured by her glasses, were glossed overness with a tired comfortness that made him happy to wake up. Then there was the toothbrush half sticking out of her mouth as she gave a giant yawn that was twice as cute as a kitten meowing. Everything about her demanded his attention, and he was all too willing to give it to her. "Were you staring at my ass?" Karin asked, pointing her toothbrush at him like it was a dagger. "What? Did he always sound so stupid in the morning?" She marched over to him, her petite frame somehow causing the whole building to shake. "You were staring at my ass, weren't you? Don't bother lying. I'll know." He swallowed, desperately trying not to notice how the front of her shirt was open, exposing her smooth sexy belly that was just begging to be touched. Damn it. He was attracted to Karin. She was hot, she was his roommate, clansman, and a dozen other things, but she was very few of the things he wanted right now. Yes? Did you like it? What? He must still be dreaming or something. She took another step forward. "Do you like my ass?" She smiled at him, looking much more awake with each second. "Remember, I'll know if you lie." He shrunk back down onto the couch, trying to press as much of his body into it as possible so that she wouldn't be able to see anything. "Yes?" She smiled. "Good." She spun on her heels, walking over to the kitchen sink, her butt jiggling all the way. "I don't like to wear pants at home." She stopped and popped her hip to the side so that her ass bounced. "And now that I know you don't mind looking at it, I'll be sure to be as pantless as possible." Oh God, why? On the one hand, he got to see that delightful bum whenever they were home together. On the other, he was going to have to try and not look like a pervert in front of Karin the whole time. Something that was becoming increasingly hard. So, Karin finished brushing her teeth and was now running a comb through her hair. "What are you doing tonight?" Wait, was she going to ask him on a date? Was she trying to tell him to ask her out on a date? Did he want to date Karin? Apparently his body thought so. But was she even interested in him? I'm training with Kakashi all day." "And at night?" she asked, finally working out one last kink in her hair. She lifted her arms up to tie her hair in a ponytail, revealing more of her sexy belly. "We haven't actually had the chance to hang out, so I was thinking about watching a movie here tonight, you know, just the two of us." Oh, damn, it wasn't a date. Still, that did sound better than spending the night camping with Kakashi and Yamato. "That sounds like fun, I'll be here." "Perfect," she smiled at him, pumping her fist, looking fully awake now. "I got a busy day at the lab anyways, and don't worry, I'll be sure to pick up a good movie and some snacks." With that, she marched back to her room. Moments later, she exited fully dressed and ready to take on the world. Naruto blinked up at the ceiling, wondering what the hell was going on. Okay, so he was interested in Karin. But there was no way that she was interested in him, right? Or was she? There was that sleepy kiss she gave him. But after that, what was there? I should talk to Sakura about this. Sakura just laughed at him and called him an idiot. In the evening, he wasn't nervous. He was just going to watch a movie or two with Karin in his own apartment. That was a perfectly normal thing for people to do. Even more so when they were friends and roommates. But that wasn't entirely true. He was fairly certain that he had a crush on Karin. So, it was just a perfectly normal night of movies with his crush in the apartment that they lived in together. Likely without pants. So absolutely nothing to worry about. He knocked on the door. "You live here, you dork," Karin shouted from inside. "Now come inside before I start the movie without you." Right, he opened his door. The door to his apartment. That he just knocked on. Sliding into his own apartment, Naruto smelled the fresh scent of popcorn, a bowl of which sat right next to 2 cups of instant ramen on the coffee table. "Sorry, I forgot my key." It was a bad lie. But it was better than any other reason he could think of. "You know where the spare is," Karin said, bouncing out of the kitchen. By some magic she looked even more sexy wearing more clothes than she had this morning, literally shaking her ass at him. It was the same pair of pajama pants he caught a glimpse of when he went to go rescue Gaara. She just looked so cuddly and beautiful. Then there were her glasses and hair. Her square black frames provided a sharp contrast to her wavy hair and soft features, save for that wicked smile of hers that made his ears burn. Did Kakashi train the stupid out of you or something? Or did Sakura forget to beat your sense into you today? Hey. Naruto whined, "Sakura doesn't hit me that often." "You forget, I trained with her under Tsunade, I know exactly how punch-happy she is." Karin smiled, pushing a bit of her hair back over her shoulder. A hand went up to her jaw, rubbing a spot on her cheek. "And how hard she punches." "Wait, does that mean you can punch that hard? Please say no. Please, please, please say no." He did not need to have another crush on a woman that can punch him out of Konoha. She smiled, giving him a helpless shrug. "Not really, I didn't really bother learning a lot of the fighting stuff, and by the time Tsunade was teaching that stuff I already transferred to the T&I division." "Oh, thank fuck." Anyways, she grabbed his hand with both of hers. They were so tiny and soft and warm and smooth. "Come on, let's get started. I borrowed a few movies from Ino. I think we'll like them." "They're not chick flicks, are they?" Even as he protested, he allowed her to drag him to the couch, which was currently serving as his bed. Karin had made it kind of. The cushions felt comfier than before, and a new fresh blanket was still warm from the dryer, was dropped over the top. "Nah," she snorted, bouncing down next to him. "As if I'd make you suffer through something like that. Thank God for that." He reached for one of the still steaming cups of ramen, blowing on it gently. "So what are we watching then?" He did not trust her smile. She flicked on the TV and began to slurp from her own ramen. "It's a surprise." By the time he had finished his ramen, it became apparent what kind of movie it was. A horror movie. Great, just great. Now Karin was going to know that he was a giant chicken when it comes to ghosts and spooky stuff like that. It didn't help that it was already dark out and all the other lights in the house were off. "Don't do it," he heard Karin mutter, a handful of popcorn inches from her mouth. Her eyes were wide and focused onto the TV as the main character was about to open a door. "Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it." Naruto swallowed, watching as the character opened the door. For a moment there was nothing. And still nothing as the character walked into the room that was dark save for a single candle. The character's breath and footfalls were all that could be heard until the creaking of the door. The lock latched on its own and the candle flickered out. "Are you here to play with me?" They both screamed, jumping out the childlike voice that echoed from the TV. "Hold me." Karin screamed, crying as she lunged towards him, wrapping her arms around his waist and burying her head into his chest. He could feel her heart pounding against her chest. "I didn't think it'd be this story." His mouth was dry. Karin was so close, holding onto him for dear life. So this was why guys took girls out to see scary movies. It felt good and even calmed his growing terror from the movie. With his hand on her shoulder, he reached for the remote. "Should we turn it off?" "No," she cried, burying her face into his side even more so. "If we stop now, I'll never be able to sleep. Just keep holding me, I feel safe like this." His heart skipped a beat. "Yay, sure." He was cuddling with Karin. She smelled like cherries. She was inside of his arms, shaking out of fear and clinging to him for safety. It felt good. Really good. Reaching up, he pulled the blanket up around them. Karen scooted closer, her arms never leaving his waist even as her hip touched his. "Thank you," she smiled. "I should be able to watch the movie like this." He wasn't so sure. His mind was still racing over Karen's closeness, and oh god, why was the main character going back into the room the ghost appeared, and they both screamed again. Watching the movie proved to be a mistake. By the time it was over he couldn't close his eyes without seeing that stupid ghost. And every single random noise in his home reminded him of that creepy little girl. "I don't think I'm going to sleep tonight," Karen muttered, pulling herself closer to him. She looked so cute when she was sleepy. Her lips were parted, pointing right at him, begging for a kiss. It would be so easy to steal a kiss right now. All he'd have to do would be to lean in. "I know it's late, but we should watch another movie to fall asleep to. One that's a bit less scarier." She clicked the remote. "Sure, what is it now?" She smiled, resting her head on his shoulder. A sappy romance movie about a girl trying to get an idiot to realize she's in love with him. Why doesn't she just tell him? I mean, if he's an idiot, wouldn't it just be easier that way? Still, a romance movie would be a great way for him to fall asleep. Where's the fun in that? Karen yawned into his chest, snuggling into it, her eyes already drooping with sleep. Somehow the couch, that was too small for just him, was the perfect size for the two of them. So long as Karen was snuggled up close to him like this, he could sleep anywhere. Besides, don't underestimate how dense a boy can be. The movie started. Oh please, nobody can be that dense. His hand was resting on Karen's hip now, his thumb grazing the bare skin of her stomach. "Naruto," Karen leaned on him so that she was as much on his body as she was off it. She was so close. So tantalizingly close. How did she look so attractive half asleep? It was unreal, her fiery red eyes bore into him, demanding something of him. "You are that dense." "I am?" Sure, girls were confusing and everything. But he thought that it was obvious when a girl liked a guy. They got all blushy and crushy. "If you weren't, you'd have a girlfriend right now." She yawned again, pressing her face into his chest once again so that only one of her eyes could see the TV. "But enough about that. Let's watch the movie, and maybe you'll learn a thing or two." Like he could do that with Karen snuggling next to him like that, her hands freely roaming his stomach. This was great. He was terrified, horny, and confused all at once. Did Karen like him? He needed to know. The movie faded into the background as he watched Karen. What did girls do when they liked a boy? Well, when Sakura liked Sasuke, she asked him out a lot, got really happy all the time around him, and always took his side. And Karen was not really doing any of those things. If anything, she was mad at him. "Hey Karen?" "Yay, huh?" she mewled. "Are you happy that I'm back?" he asked, bringing a hand up to play with her hair, it was so long and soft. She giggled, flaming red eyes snapping to him once more. There was no fear or tiredness in her gaze, just pure amusement. "What do you think? That I'm a dense idiot that needs things spelled out for him?" His arm was asleep. "Think about it for a second, Naruto." She moved, sliding along his torso so that the only thing he could see was her face as a curtain of red fell around them, sealing them away from the world. "We just watched a scary movie. I'm currently cuddling up next to you like a cat while we watch a rom-com. We live in the same house, I do your laundry and cook for us whenever you're not away on a mission. Would we be doing any of those things if I wasn't happy you're back?" "No?" "Exactly," she purred, looming over him like a predator about to catch its prey, hands on his shoulders to prevent him from ever escaping. Now, what kind of people would do stuff like this? Friends? Her look hardened, then a coy smile grew on her face. Her hot breath smelled like popcorn. Something more. Best friends? She groaned, "Seriously, you're fucking with me, right? Boyfriend and..." "Correct," she interrupted him. "And what would a boyfriend do to a girlfriend? Take her out on dates? And?" She purred, her nose touching his. "Hold hands?" She groaned again. "If I was your girlfriend, what would you be doing with me right here, right now?" This? More, Naruto. Always more." She licked her lips, bringing them within a breath of his own. Paralyzing him in fear. "What do you want to do to me right now?" His hands were on the curve of her hip. There was only one answer that came to mind. "Kiss you?" "Well?" she whispered, sending a chill down his spine. "What are you waiting for?" Karen's lips were warm and soft. An addicting feeling that sent waves of energy through his body, banishing any feeling that was directly related to the here and now. And it ended far too soon. "See, told you we're dense." Karen smiled, pulling away from him, whipping her hair back out of his face. She assumed her spot on the couch, comfortably snuggling into him. "I'd love to continue, but that last move legit fucked me up, so just hold me until we fall asleep." Naruto blinked. A hand on the small of Karen's back. What the hell just happened? Did they really just kiss? Was this another genjutsu? "Hey Karen?" She hummed. "Are you my girlfriend?" He could see her smile in the darkness. "Would you like me to be?" Yes, the word came out so easily. Then there's your answer. End of chapter 17. Chapter 18. This was a feeling she could get used to. Naruto was warm, and his steady breathing brought her peace. To say nothing of his wonderful chakra that swaddled her like a big sexy blanket. He was the only bed, blanket, and pillow she would ever need. She closed her fingers around his shirt, balling it up tightly. And he was all hers now. Kissing him had felt as good as she dreamed it would be. With just that smallest bit of lip contact, she had confirmed everything she needed to know about Naruto's feelings and her own. Love. Love, love. They were in love. Now all she had to do was get Naruto to say it first. Not out of any real sense of spite. It was just fun to torment him until he confessed. Her T&I training would make that part easy, the trick was to get him to realize it. Karen slid along his body, feeling his muscles underneath her. She followed her desire towards his mouth. Just a small kiss before he wakes up and she'll be set. Her lips grazed his, sending that chill down her spine and making her heart flutter. If she had held it for a second longer he would have woken up. And that would ruin her fun. Naruto POV. He had the weirdest dream, it felt so real. Karen had kissed him, or did he kiss her? And became his girlfriend before she fell asleep on top of him. But that was just a dream. A weird, sexy dream that he really wanted to make happen. And why was there a weight on his chest? Wait. Naruto gasped awake, wide-eyed, getting an eyeful of the beautiful red hair that was the color of desire. Karen. She was asleep on his chest, her mouth hung open as he breathing matched his. Both of her hands were clutching onto his shirt for dear life. The sound of her breath was like the song of an angel, coming from one of the most beautiful creatures in the world. Everything about her seemed so perfect and surreal in that moment. Her hair was spread about around her like a frame of wildfire, light wisps of her hair danced about her head, moving with her breath. She was beyond beautiful. She stirred, pushing up to rub the sleep from her eyes, like it wasn't the cutest thing in the world. Her eyes fluttered open and she smiled at him like a demon, her arms snaking up around his neck as she pulled towards his face. "Good morning, Naruto." She purred, bringing her face within inches of his. The way she said his name was something only he should hear. "My boyfriend." She kissed him, softly, on the lips. It exhumed whatever sleep still lingered in his body. His blood rushed, warming his ears and making his body tingle. His own hands found her back, hovering, resting just above her hips. He had never felt so much alive. And last night wasn't a dream. Karen was his girlfriend. He had a girlfriend. This called for running around the town shouting at the top of his lungs that Naruto Uzumaki had a girlfriend. After he was done kissing her, of course. She pulled away, laughing and hiding her blush into the crook of his neck. "You have no idea how long I've been waiting for you." Like 3 years?" The words slipped out without his consent. She pulled up sharply, her eyes narrowing into a sharp glare. "Yes. Don't ruin the mood, you idiot. We have like 30 minutes before I'm needed at the lab, and you have to get back to training." Karen fell back down onto him, her hot breath tickling his neck. "So let's just do some adorable couple stuff and make plans for dinner." Couple stuff? He had no idea what any of that stuff was. What was he supposed to do? He didn't even know what he was doing now. Like what? She hugged him tighter. "Holding me is a good start, and telling me what you think of me is a good start." His spine tingled, he felt like puking, and he had to pee. But Karen. She was there on top of him, he didn't want to move ever again. She was warm, soft, and just touching her filled him with a sense of purpose. You're like really pretty and stuff." Karen kicked her legs up and down, sending the blanket to the floor and exposing them to the cold morning air. "You really suck at that, you know? But I'm really kind of happy about that. How's me being bad at being a boyfriend a good thing?" Because he felt her lips meet his skin and she sucked, it was weird. Really weird. But felt good at the same time. "It makes me feel better about not being a good girlfriend." She did it again on the same spot. And if we become good at it, it means we must really care about each other, doesn't it? Her caress paralyzed him to the couch, as though all of his nerve endings were desperately trying to get to whatever Karen was touching. I think you're pretty good at it already. He managed to eke out. More of that laughter that was honey for his ears. He wanted to hear that noise every day. She pushed herself up so that she was sitting on his legs looking down at him, her hands touching his face. Well, it's a good thing that you're sweet and adorable. He grabbed her hands, nudging into her touch and smiling up at her. She was beautiful, and his girlfriend. His beautiful girlfriend Karen. He couldn't stop thinking about it. And you're like super beautiful and stuff. And stuff? She smiled, tossing her hair back. His face felt warm. She was teasing him. I said I'm not good at this kind of thing. It's a learning process, I'm sure in no time I'll be putty in your hands. But, I like you in my hands like you are now. Naruto raised an eyebrow. It'd be weird. Her smile fell and her eyes glazed over, still locked onto him. Did he say something wrong? How could he have already messed everything up with Karen? She began to laugh, bubbling up as she held her stomach. It grew and grew, going from giggles to a chortle to a full-on guaf that sent him tumbling off of him onto the ground, taking the blanket and a few pillows down with her. You idiot, she said in between laughs. Give me a warning before you say something so stupid and sweet. So I didn't do bad? Naruto sat up, placing his feet on the ground, as Karen stared up at him. A generous portion of her smooth stomach was revealed. Wait, there was something missing. What happened to your scars? No, Naruto, do good. She held up both hands, flapping them in the air. He pulled her up, noticing their height difference for the first time. She was just slightly taller than Sakura, just a whole lot more prettier. And don't worry about those scars, Sanada found a way to remove them a while ago. She bounced onto her toes, kissing him on the cheek before she walked past him. Her swaying hips drew his eyes like moth to a flame. Anyways, we better get ready for the day. Oh, right. He had training to do. He was going to be late too. Yamato wanted to start super early. He ran back over to Karen, grabbing her by the waist and pulling her into another kiss. He wanted to do that a million times. Okay, gotta go. Let's go to Ichiraku for dinner. It's a date. Karen slapped him on the chest, leaving her hand on in the center. Her eyes were telling him to stay, to forget the outside world for a few more moments and experience what it means to have a girlfriend. You better get going. Okay, I love you, bye. He was out the door and halfway down the stairs before he realized what he just said. That was a normal thing for couples, right? To say I love you? Didn't girls say that there was such a thing as too early? Was it too early? Did he care? Not really. Besides, it wasn't like Karen was going to freak out over it. Karen POV. It wasn't supposed to be that easy. Karen fell to her legs the second that Naruto left. She felt him standing there frozen on their steps before he took off. Her face was red and her heart was racing. She was so happy and confused, and it took everything she had to act like that around Naruto without completely gushing over him. That idiot, she swore. Of course he was going to make everything so unbelievably complicated and so easy at the same time. It was way too soon to be saying the L word. How on earth was she going to move into phase 2 if he just kept skipping ahead of everything? Sure, she was partially to blame by rushing her status as his girlfriend and stealing his kisses. But that didn't mean he could just skip straight to I love you. Running her hands through her hair like two rampaging bulls, Karen screamed. Kicking her legs, she fell back onto her floor. Stupid. How on earth was she going to react to that? He was so innocent and pure and good-hearted. She froze. And she was going to corrupt his soul. With a devilish smile, Karen looked into her room. That would do. Oh, you're going to pay for this, Naruto, you're going to pay. She caught sight of the clock. Was that really the time? I'm so late. Naruto POV. Naruto? Yamato asked during a break from training. Is that a hickey on your neck? Yay. Naruto pulled his collar, showing off the mark that Karen had given him. She became my girlfriend last night and gave me this. Oh, we also have a date tonight. Don't you live with her though? Kakashi snapped his book shut. Won't that get a little weird? What? Nah, it'll be awesome. People live with their girlfriends all the time, right? In the evening. Since when could you eat more ramen than me? Naruto groaned, glaring at his empty wallet. Karen bumped into him, both of her arms were crossed. Oh, quit moaning, if I wasn't running so late, I'd have remembered my wallet. I'll buy next time. Sheesh, since when did I start dating a big baby? Last night. He smiled, putting his wallet back, earning a punch in the arm. Her hand dangled there for a moment. Just begging to be grabbed. You're such a dork, Karen laughed, taking another step closer. Her hand brushed his. With each swing of her arm they collided again and again. It was driving him crazy. Karen, he scratched the side of his face, trying really hard not to look at her. But he couldn't keep his eyes off of her. Even after watching her scarf down 5 bowls of ramen, she was still the most beautiful person in Konoha. It felt like every time he looked at her, she was even more beautiful in some new and exciting way. Can I hold your hand? Dork, she spat, grabbing his hand. You're not supposed to ask. You're just supposed to do it. It's more romantic that way. This is complicated. Can you just tell me what I can and can't do? Naruto asked, rubbing his thumb over Karen's hand. She snorted. Where's the fun in that? But if you must know, there are a few things you can do to me without asking permission. What are they? Please let there be kissing. Please, please, please let there be kissing. Well, let's see, she tapped her lips, smiling like an angel. You can talk to me whenever you want. Karen. She was enjoying this, wasn't she? Yep, she was. Well, you can hold my hand whenever we're walking like this. You can also hug me whenever you want. She led him up the stairs to his home. Their home. His apartment seemed so much brighter than it ever had. It had gone from where his bed was to something more. Something magical. What about kissing? Do I have to ask for kissing? Only if we're in public. She opened the door and gestured to the inside of their home. In here though, you can kiss me whenever I'm. He guided her towards him, kissing her again. It was so addicting. So welcoming. He was completely aware of her mind, body and soul. In this moment they were utterly connected. But besides from all of that, it just felt really, really good to kiss Karen. Everything about her was so into him. I'm not busy, Karen finished, her eyes fluttering as they parted for a moment. Her face was flushed with heat and her red eyes sparked with a hint of embarrassment. Actually, you can do that whenever it's just us. Awesome. They settled down for the evening, laughing, watching a movie, though neither one of them could say exactly what it was about, and talked until the wee hours of the night. We should get to bed, Karen stood from the couch, stretching so that her shirt lifted up ever so slightly. That was so hot. She was just so Karen. I have tests to run in the morning, and you're getting close to done with your training, right? Yay, Naruto frowned. I guess I'll see you in the morning then. She gave him a kiss on the nose. Her entire body danced like a candle in a storm as she walked. Capturing his imagination and his desires. She paused in the doorway to her room. Oh, there was one more thing you can do without asking permission. Karen vanished into the threshold. A moment later her shirt appeared, being dropped like a tantalizing steak on the ground. You don't have to ask to sleep in the same bed with me. He did not need to be told twice. End of chapter 18. Chapter 19. He was in a suit. It was tight, hugging his form, and he doubted he could throw his arms above his head without something coming undone. He was standing at an altar. There was a lot of people gathered around them, all of them well-dressed, smiling happily at him. He was getting married. That thought rung through his mind like distant thunder. It brought a smile on his face that could not be diminished. She always brought that smile to his face with just a look, a touch, a word. And how could she not? When her own happiness was so intoxicating. Somehow they had survived as the world spiraled into chaos around them. But she was his rock. His one constant in an ever-changing life. When Jiraiya had died, she was there. When Konoha was destroyed and their home lost, when it seemed like all hope was lost. She was there, smiling at him or doing that cute scowl she does when she's worried about him. He stood, like a leaf in the wind, fidgeting and waiting for her to appear. It was bad enough that he hadn't been allowed to see her that morning. It seemed like everything had stretched out for an eternity. Every button on his suit took an hour, every lace on his shoes a year. Every breath a century. The world grew silent, the lights dimmed, the air chilled. Such was Karen's entrance. Her steps heralded her beauty, that was such that should he go blind right now, his only regret would that he would not be able to see her once more. Her smile warmed his soul better than the sun ever could. Her hair was the sun frozen at dusk, a brilliant red tied back and a white veil, leaving only a few wavy strands to frame her face that clashed against the black square frames of her glasses. A bouquet of pure white flowers was barely a ghost against her dress. Everything about her was like fresh snow on a cold winter morning. She was perfect, completely and utterly perfect. It was her smile that held his gaze the longest. It was one he got when he did something that made her really happy, until he fell into the trap that was her eyes. It was in her eyes that she laid down her soul to him. Everything that she was, her kindness, her manipulative nature, her cunning sense of self-preservation was all there for him to see. And he loved every bit of it, of her. In the time between heartbeats she stood before him. Beautiful beyond words, and soon she would be his wife. How did he get so lucky? "Close your mouth, idiot," Karen hissed at him, her smile never fading. His jaw snapped shut with chomp that echoed in his ears. A low laughter echoed from the crowd around them, and the world came back into focus. He was at a wedding. His wedding. He was getting married. To Karen. "Sorry, you're just so beautiful." He rubbed the back of his head, something that he knew she found cute. She blushed and mouthed, "You're lucky, I love you." Her eyes darted down and away from him. She was too cute. "We," Sanada shouted, silencing any further chatter, "are gathered here today to celebrate the union of Naruto Uzumaki and Karen Uzumaki." Naruto stood straight and stepped in front of Tsunade. Karen was at his side, casting a sidelong glare at him. "Are we doing this right? It's just like we practiced." "Now shut up," Karen growled. Oh, she was in a weird happy angry mood, kind of like when she was in that weird happy but crying mood. In holy matrimony. Tsunade out an open palm to Karen. "Do you, Karen Uzumaki, take Naruto Uzumaki to be your husband?" What if she didn't say it? What if she said no? What if this was all some trick? His heart skipped a beat as she turned to face him, her smile never breaking. With each passing moment her beauty seemed to double. "I do." Her voice was like the first bite of cake. Sweet, fluffy, and delicious. Why did he have to wait to kiss her? "Do you, Naruto Uzumaki, take Karen Uzumaki to be your wife?" What kind of question was that? "Yep." He chirped, smiling down at her. A chill ran up his spine, and he saw her eyes narrow at him. "I mean, I do." That seemed to make her happy. Man, why was this so hard? When was the kissing part again? He hadn't kissed her in like a whole day. That put him far below his quota of at least 5 or more, depending on how often they bumped into each other. "Please turn to face each other and join hands," Tsunade instructed with a large smile on her face. The bride and groom have chosen to take their love for each other and write their own vows. Okay, all he had to do was not fuck this up. Easier said than done. Could he fight Madara again and get a free pass on this? That seemed easier. Karen smiled at him, her small delicate fingers wrapping around his hands, drawing playful circles, then her eyes snapped towards his. "I promise to love you without reservation," she already did. "To comfort you in times of distress," she already had. "To stand by your side as you reach for your dreams, to laugh with you and cry with you. I promise you the best of myself so that we may continue to grow and love as we always have and always will. I promise you that with me, you are always home." He really wanted to kiss her. He really needed to kiss her. She was so adorable, so beautiful, and fuck, what were his lines again? How could he forget them? All he had to do was remember those lines and say them. It should be easy. They were his confession of love to Karen. He could not mess this up. The world stared at him in anticipation. Just don't say the joke lines, just don't say the joke lines. It's a quick way to die. If she killed him now, then he wouldn't be able to kiss him. "I have you when I'm in trouble." Shit. Why was he saying those things? "You and I are the perfect couple." Why couldn't he stop? "To protect each other from devastation, to unite our hearts before this nation. To treat you with truth and love. To stay together until the heavens above. My heart beats for you at the speed of light. Surrender your love for me on this night." A few laughs echoed from the audience, and Sakura's knuckles cracked. The sound of her teeth gnashing reminded him of the screams of terrified children. Karen just looked at him, one eyebrow raised. "Really? Team Rocket? Yo!" Naruto howled as Tsunade's heel dug into his foot. "That's right. That's the best you could do?" She was mad. That wasn't good. "I'm sorry, Karen." He looked down at his feet, it still throbbed with pain from Tsunade's assault. "But you know I'm not good with words." He looked her in the eyes and felt warm once again. "Words just can't possibly describe how much I love you." She melted, her fingers relaxing, and a few tears swelled in her eyes. "Idiot, just say that. Words just can't possibly describe how much I love you." Again, she laughed. "Words just can't possibly describe how much I love you." Again. She jumped, smiling up at him. "Holy crap." Tsunade threw her hands up and walked away. I now pronounce you man and wife. You may kiss the bride. I need a drink." It was Karin that kissed him, pulling him down towards her and letting all of her love be known in that connect. Once again, the world fell away, leaving only the important things. Him and her and that wonderful kiss that connected them. It was just too beautiful for words. Karin was his wife. And he was her husband. They were a family now. "Karin, I love you," he whispered, placing a hand on her cheek. "That's a good thing, Naruto," she laughed, lightly touching his nose with her own. "Because I sure as hell love you." 3 years later. He had gotten kicked out. Karin, his lovely wife of 3 years, was pregnant, and he had gotten kicked out of the emergency room while she was giving birth to their daughter. He wasn't going to be around to see his beautiful baby girl be born. What did he do to deserve this kind of punishment? Sure, he was screaming and running around like an idiot, but what sane husband that loved his wife wouldn't be doing the same thing? His wife was in pain and his daughter was about to be born. He had to do something. Anything. So he paced, walking back and forth. If he stopped, he might not be ready for when they needed him. What if there was a ninja attack? What if some jerk came from the future to kill his daughter? That'd be rude. He needed to be ready for everything. Time assassinations included. What if one of the boy babies in the hospital saw her and developed a crush on his precious baby girl? He needed to prepare the speech. What would he say to her daughter's future boyfriends? Wait. No, that was too much. She wasn't going to be allowed to have a boyfriend until she was married. Yes. That was perfect. Naruto, Sakura growled, sticking her head out of the emergency room, her stomach also swelling with a child. She was only 6 months pregnant and looked to be the same size as Karin, twins apparently. "You can come in now." He did not need to be told twice. "Thank you, Sakura." There she was, in all of her beautiful pasty red-haired glory, looking so delicate and perfect. Despite everything she had been through. And now, she had their daughter in her arms, a small crying human with hair the color of a peach. Karin looked at him, giving him a toothy smile that would match his own. She looked tired, but very happy. She held up their daughter so that she was facing him. "Look, Futaba, it's your papa." "Futaba?" Naruto asked, reaching out a finger to his daughter. She grabbed it and his heart nearly melted. "Yay," Karin sighed, "I told you I wasn't going to go with your horrible names." Futaba Uzumaki, the name tasted sweet on his lips. He had a daughter. Tears began to fall from his eyes. He had a family. A beautiful family. "It's nice to meet you. I'm your papa." The end. That is everything for. Hope that someone enjoyed. I like this one. Naruto Karin is my second favorite pairing. If you like, leave a comment. What do you think about this fanfic? And this everything for what is due. Have a nice day and see you in next story.